children, so this week we are going to be starting off a new series dealing with the Impressionist movement. So if you remember last week we did some stuff with Byzantine and it was dealing with the apple and the arrow, and that was just a fun little thing to get us into the real art nitty-gritty. So I wanted us to take a look at the Impressionist movement, and I'll explain what Impressionist movement is in a little bit. For this time, and we're going to be doing a series, so we're going to go over artists during like the 1840s till the 1920s type of situation. We're going to be looking at different artists who were very influential in the art realm and just the Impressionist movement overall. So this time we're going to be studying the artists. Oh, and all of these artists were like friends. They like all hung out together and just painted stuff, so that's kind of fun. But we're going to be learning about the pioneer, and when I say pioneer, that just kind of means like the first guy who really set off the movement, painter who really made Impressionist painting so big and so popular and well known and liked. And his name was Claude Monet. And his full name was Claude Monet, but for some reason nobody calls him Oscar except for his parents. Or they did call him Oscar. They're dead now. This guy is really old. Not alive anymore. So I gave you this paper. Miss Alana, can you see the paper in the frame? I gave you this paper, and we're going to be writing down in this blank area. I'm sorry you can't really see the lines really well. For some reason they did not appear on the page. So just try to write as smallly as possible and as neatly as possible. I don't want you to write huge letters and not be able to get in all the information you need to get in. But we're going to be writing down some facts about this, and I also printed out some of the more famous paintings that he did, and we'll be talking about why he did those and when he did those, and the critical acclaim, which just means that people who come to look at art and be like, oh, this is good, this is bad, this is good art, liked it or didn't like it. So the critical acclaim, that's kind of what it means that his art received. So I also gave you this paper, not this paper, this paper, and this is going to be very important because this is what we are going to be doing our art project on. This is a painting done by Claude Monet. And then this is a coloring page, and we are going to be replicating his painting on this coloring page. But first, let's read a little bit about him, because I got an article out. Okay, so he was a painter. He was born November 14th in Paris, France, in 1840. And he died December 5th, 1926 in Giverny, France. His famous artworks are Impression Sunrise, which is this one right here. This is one of his most famous probably because that is the artwork that got him well known everywhere, and that the critics found and actually liked, because you'll come to know the critics did not like the Impressionist movement. And then water lilies and haystacks and a woman with a parasol. But I don't have those on there. I just have this one and his water lilies. His water lilies are down here, but that also deals with the bridge. And then the style of painting was Impressionist. So let's go over what Impressionist means. So Impressionist was essentially the artist would look at a scene of nature or just something that was happening, and they would paint that thing, that nature scene or whatever, really fast, and they would paint it in a way that it looked to them. So they weren't really true to what nature really looked like. So if a leaf had some veins and stuff, they weren't really scrutinizing, and they would be like, okay, a little vein right here, a little bit of that. The ridges need to be like this. No, they would go really fast, and they would paint it how they would see it in their brain. And so a lot of the times your brain kind of it just sees like a couple of tones. It sees really bright colors, and it sees the light's reflection and how the light plays with the thing that you're painting. So that's a lot of the times what his paintings were. They were a lot of light playing on water and sunrises. He loved painting sunrises and very bright, bold colors, because that was the impression that when he looked at that, that was what he saw, so that was what he painted. He didn't paint necessarily super true to nature. So that's what Impressionist painting was. So, where did Claude Monet grow up? He was born in Paris, but his family moved to the port city of Le Havre, France, while he was still young. He loved to draw as a child. He began drawing caricatures, which just means like little figures, of people that were quite good. Even as a kid, he was able to make some extra money drawing pictures of people. So you can see even as a child, he loved drawing, and he would make money drawing as well. So you can see that it was a business for him. Around the age of 11, Claude entered a school for the arts. His mother supported him becoming an artist, but his father wanted him to take over the family grocery business. Claude met some other artists around this time and began to use oil paints to paint his outdoors. So when he was drawing caricatures when he was a little kid, he only had like pastels, which are like crayons basically. But then when he started going to school and he met other artists who loved to do art, they started using oil paints. And oil paints for an artist were very important back then because it was like super higher up and elevated, and it made your painting look even more beautiful. But, and you can see his dad didn't really want him to become an artist. He wanted him to do the business, but his mommy, who was a singer, so she already loved the arts, wanted him to become an artist, so she supported him in that. So I want you to write down that his mom encouraged him to become an artist. Do I need to write that down for them on the board? Do you need me to write that down? Yeah, you're little in that area. Can you pause so I can write down? Sorry, I'll be right back. Okay, so since his mother was a biblical influence, wasn't she? She was the one who encouraged him to become an artist. So we're gonna write down right here on this page. I want you to put a little bullet point, which is just a little dot like this, for each and every sentence that you're gonna have to write down. And so this one is mother encouraged him to become an artist. So I want you to write that down right there. All right. So then moving to Paris, a few years after his mother died in 1857, Claude moved to Paris to study art at Académie Suisse. So he went to another art school. He was there for about a year. When he was drafted into the army, he became sick with typhoid fever in the army and returned home a few years later. And what happened during that scene is his aunt was like, listen, I can get you out of the army because you've already been sick with typhoid fever, but you have to go to this prestigious art school that I'm going to be sending you to. So Monet said, okay, I'll go to the art school. I don't want to be in the army anymore. So, Woman in the Garden, that was a painting that he did. Monet continued to paint outdoor scenes. So he loved nature, didn't he? He had a love of nature, it seems like. And you can see in most of his paintings, it's all outdoors and things like that. He continued to paint outdoor scenes. His paintings were becoming accepted by the art critics in Paris. He then decided, the art critics, as we said before, were basically just like the judges of deciding what was good and bad art. He then decided to take on a large project he called Woman in the Garden. This was a huge painting over 8 feet tall. 8 feet tall is like super big. I mean, it's taller than your dad. It's really tall. That he painted outside in natural light. It was a normal, everyday scene. He painted a lot of time on it, or he spent a lot of time on it, but the critics did not like it. He became depressed and was also out of money. So, because the critics were not liking his art, he wasn't making any money. And that was his main source of income. So, we're going to say he painted impressions of scenes. I want you to write that down on this paper, right underneath this. Okay. Once you've done that, you can pause it and in 1870, and Claude moved with his new wife, Camille, so he got married. And Camille was his muse. A muse is just somebody you get inspiration from, so he loved his wife a lot. And there he met an art dealer, Paul Durand-Ruel, who would become one of his strongest supporters. So that's very important for an artist because he was not making any money selling his art, and so that means he couldn't even make any more art because he needed money to buy paints and stuff like that. So when this Paul guy came along, he was like, I'll give you money to paint more art because I can see what you're doing is really beautiful here. So that was very important. It helped him be able to live and eat and paint and take care of his family. Who would become one of his greatest supporters? At this time, Monet began to study his relation of the city of London, the relation of the city of London to the River of Thames. So that means that he would just look at London and he would look at London, the city, beside the river, and he would start painting it. Impressionists. Monet became friends with several of the leading artists of the time, including Pierre Renoir, Edouard Monet, and Camille Pissarro. We are going to be studying each and every single one of these artists after we're done with Claude Monet because those were his friends and those people were very, very prominent in the Impressionist movement. Together they formed the Society of Anonymous Painters, Sculptors, and Printers. They wanted to experiment with art and not do the same classical art that satisfied the art critics of Paris. So that's very important. They were not really interested in just doing what everybody else were doing. They wanted to revolutionize art, and by revolutionizing, it was just making things look a little bit more messy, making things look a little bit more natural instead of everything being so precise and so perfect in their artworks. They organized an exhibition of their art in 1847. One critic called it the exhibition of the Impressionists. The term impressionist was used to imply that the art was just an impression of something, and when they say impression, that means just like you look at something, you look away, it's your first judge of that one thing. So that's what an impression means. And it was an impression of something, they were saying that's what the art was, and not completed. It was meant as an insult. So the impressionist name was originally not supposed to be a good thing, but they made it into a good thing because that's what it was. It wasn't an impression, it was what they saw, it was how they saw nature, how they portrayed it on paper. Impression sunrise. So that is the, what is this called? That is the painting right here, the one that got really big and made Claude Monet well known. The critic got the word impression from one of Monet's works. It is called Impression Sunrise. This painting was a great example of the new style. The lighting gives the viewer the feeling of impression that the sunrise is just rising. Or the feeling or impression that the sunrise is just rising. Monet's use of light was unique. An interesting fact about this picture, its brightness of the sun is the same as the sky. If you turn this picture into black and white, the sun virtually disappears. So he used the same type of tones to make it look kind of dull, like it was early in the morning. So if you turn that picture black and white, there will be no sun because it's the same type of tone, even though it's a different color. There's a use of value. Continued work. Despite the critics of Impressionism, Monet continued to refine his work. He continued to try and capture the changing effects of color with light. He used a wide range of vibrant colors and painted quickly using short brush strokes. Soon Monet's work began to gain recognition. His paintings started to sell. He even organized an Impressionist art exhibition, that just means people can come and see his art, in the United States in 1886. Painting in series. In order to continue his experiments with light, Monet began to paint series of the same scene. He would paint them at different times of the day and in different types of weather. He painted a series of haystacks, the Rouen Cathedral, and the London Parliament. So, I put together, because what he would do is he would just go to the same spot different types of days, and he would look at the light and how the light would affect the scenery, and he would start painting that. So I wanted to show you what they meant by that. So I lined up a bunch of pictures of the exact same spot, but in different lightings and in different times of the day. So at the bottom you can see that. And so you can go Near the end of his life, Monet embarked on his largest project. It was a series on the pond at his home in Giverny. It's French, but I can't pronounce it. It involved a number of huge paintings of the pond in different lightings and conditions, such as morning, sunset, and clouds. He called it the Grandes Decorations. When finished, all the panels together were over 6 feet tall and nearly 300 feet long. During much of the project, the aged Monet was suffering from bad eyesight and lung cancer. He spent the last 10 years of his life on the project and donated it to France in honor of the end of World War I. So, I put that picture up here. So this is how long the one painting was. So you could literally go into a room, like this classroom, and his painting went all the way from you can't see, but all the way from that wall over there to this wall over here, and then it would go onto the wall over there, and it would make a circle and go around the whole room. So it was this huge painting that was super duper long, was super duper tall, and so it made you feel when you go into the room like you were actually inside the pond. And so he worked on that towards the end of his life. That was one of his final projects. And so at the top, this is one of them. It's smaller, but this is one of them that he painted. He painted several of those. And then the legacy. At the prime of his career, Monet was considered the preeminent artist in France. He is still considered one of the great French artists of all time. He also founded the Impressionist movement, one of the major movements in art history, and had a major influence on future artists. Interesting facts about Claude Monet. Monet once had joined an art show with the premier sculptor of the time, Auguste Rodin. It was a huge success. So he would partner up with artists a lot to get the work out, get his work known. He painted many pictures of his first wife, Camille. They had 2 sons named Jean and Michael. At one point, before his paintings started to sell, he became so distraught over his financial situation, and he became really sad, and it was not a good time for him. He became very depressed. He was born Oscar Claude Monet. His parents called him Oscar. He nearly went blind from cataracts. Cataracts are it's a disease on your eyes where something happens and basically you get really blurry and you almost go blind. But he had 2 surgeries, so he didn't go blind. But his paintings, because they had to shave off some of his eye, were kind of weird looking afterwards. They were a lot more red because the way he saw things, different lights looked different to him because of the surgery on his eyes. He once said, "Everyone discusses my art and pretends to understand as if it were necessary to understand, when it is simply necessary to love." So, he's like, you should just enjoy beauty for beauty's sake. You shouldn't always just try to analyze it and figure out the nitty-gritty behind it. He's like, you just need to see something that's beautiful and be like, you know what, that is beautiful, I love that. So, on the paper, this one, we are going to write down these facts about him. So, his mother encouraged him to become an artist, painted impressions of scenes, so what he saw versus necessarily what nature had to offer. So he painted impressions of scene, married twice, and had 2 sons. So yeah, even though we only talked about one wife named Camille, he married another woman named Alice. And he had 2 sons with Camille, his first wife. And then art critics did not like his art at first anyways. He had a love of nature. He loved nature very much. It was his greatest inspiration. And he had eye problems at the end of his life. Oh, he also died of lung cancer. I think they pronounced that, but yeah, that was his reasons for death. And he was hardworking until his last days. So even in his last days where he was going blind and everything was happening to him, he still painted that huge wall of lilies that went all around the room. So that is Claude Monet. I hope you learned something about him. And now I'm going to pause this video and I'm going to show you how I colored this from this. And I'm not going to show you the whole thing. I'm just going to show you a little portion of it just because takes a really long time and this video is already super long. But you guys are very smart. You're just going to copy from here to here. And also the other thing, we're going to be splitting this art project up into 2 situations, like 2 weeks. So this week we're only going to be coloring what I've colored right here. We're not going to be coloring the water, and we're not going to be coloring the sky. That's what we're going to be doing next week. But we're going to be coloring all of the objects and details in here because next week we're going to focus on the reflection and the light in the water and how these objects reflect in the water and how the sky reflects in the water. Because that's what Monet really loved. He loved painting reflections and light and stuff like that. So that'll be for next week. But this week we're just going to be focusing on the boats and the land. Okay, I'll pause real fast. Can you see all of this, Miss Leilani? Okay, I want you to pause the video right now. I want you to look at this and I want you to write it down on this paper for me. Very nicely and small. Thank you. Bye. Okay, hey kids, I'm back. So, what you're going to need for this art project is you're going to need this paper right here. You're going to need this paper right here. And you're going to need some crayons. And the reason we are using crayons is because we couldn't use oil pastels or oil paints because you guys are at home. And crayons are the next best thing because it's essentially oils mixed with pigments. And if you remember before, what we talked about is that he would use oil paints to do most of his paintings and that he loved oil paints. And since we can't use oil pastels, which is what I used to create this, we're just going to use this as our substitute. So you need crayons and yeah, let's start this. So remember with the Impressionist movement, it would be like quick brush strokes and it would be vibrant colors. So this is kind of what I did with the oil pastels, kind of to give you an impression of like how they would do it. They'd go like this, like that. So, like I said before, we're going to be painting only these things, only the boats and only the land. No, do not paint anything here, and do not paint anything here. I don't want you to paint anything that deals with the sea or the sky. So, let's start this. I'm only going to be painting like one thing for you because you guys can figure it out and layering colors and stuff like that. And it's pretty easy when you have something to copy off of. And also, this video is already way too long, so I need to wrap it up. And William, if you're watching this, I can hear you outside, just so you know, you're very loud. And if you can hear him outside, well, this is what I have to deal with every day. So, never mind. So what we're going to do is we're going to need a black one. So get a black. We're going to definitely need a white. You need to get a white. Green, blue, a light orange, like a light orange. I don't want you to get the super duper dark orange. I want it to be quite light. And a gray. I only have a sparkly gray for now, but you don't need a sparkly gray. Just use a gray. And a gray color. And brown. We're going to need brown. Light brown, preferably. Okay, so what I did is quite simple. I'm going to be doing this one with you, this boat right here, and I'm also going to be doing a little bit of the landscaping right here. And then you are going to do the rest because I trust you and I know you can do it. Oh, and I'll also do this sail with you because this sail is a little tricky because if you can see, it's not quite white. It's like a grayish blue type of slate color. So I'm going to also help you out with that because that requires layering colors and things to that extent. So we're going to be constantly looking back and forth, back and forth, back and forth to make sure that we're getting the colors as close as possible. So we're going to start off with some blue. And we're going to go right here and we're going to paint this blue. We're going to look in here. Okay, look, the blue is here. Okay, right. So we'll paint the blue right here. Get that going just like that. And I can see then, look, underneath, oh look, I see some gray. Okay, so I'm going to take my gray. I'm going to get my gray and I'm going to try to blend it together like this and like that. Okay, look, then we got that done. Now I'm going to take my super light orange because look, what I see right here, I see some orange. And I'm going to start coloring some orange. And what's nice about these crayons is because they're oil-based, they're easier to blend together with other crayons. Oh look, and then underneath I see a little bit of gray, so I'm going to take some gray, put it right there, like that. And then I'm going to take my black because I blue. And I'm going to go like that first with my blue. Then I'm going to take my black and I'm going to lightly go over my blue to make it a darker blue color. That's what it looks like to me. Then we're going to take the black. We're going to go right here because look, I see some black right here. And we're going to color this thin little line black. Just like that. Perfect. I'm going to also paint this gray because that looks gray right there, that part. That area looks great. Then what we are going to do is I'm going to take my orange right here. And right here it looks like there's a little bit of orange mixed with maybe a tad of brown. So we'll probably end up going with a little bit of brown. I'm going to take my orange and I'm going to run it along the edge like that. Pretty lightly. There, a little bit of my brown. Do the same, go over top of the orange like that. Take a little bit of my gray because right here it looks a bit more gray. It also looks gray right here. Take my gray and kind of go over like that. And then I'm going to take my white and I'm going to start going over like this. And I'm going to start blending it together. I press pretty hard with my white. Just like that. There's that. We got all of that done already. So now what I'm going to do, because down here it looks darker, I'm going to be taking some blue. I'm going to, because right here it looks more bluish to me, I'm going to be doing the blue like this, like that, following the outline, the curves. I'm going to be taking my gray, because it looks gray right here. I'm going to do this, like that, all over the bottom of it, and then look right here, it looks white, so I'm going to take my white, like that, and I'm going to just color and blend. You want to blend a good amount. And it looks really dark right here, like at the very bottom. So I'm going to take my black, and I'm just going to go at the very bottom and create a little bit more darkness right there. Perfect. Look how easy that was. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my black, and I'm going to do a light layer on these little rods right here, because this looks like a little bit of a bluish black. So I'm going to do a very light layer on my black like that. Then I'm going to take my blue and I'm going to go over my black. Oops, somebody got hurt outside. I can hear somebody crying. And there's that. So we have the boat done. But now what we're going to do is we're going to focus on the sail. And so that's what this part right here. Sometimes it can look a little tricky to differentiate it, but just keep on looking back and forth and you'll be able to see, because like right here, it's a boat right here. See that? That's a boat. We don't want to paint on this. This line is where the sail begins and ends. So we're going to take our gray right here, and right here I can see a little bit of gray into this area, so I'm going to lightly color some gray. I'm going to color some gray right here, very, very lightly. I'm going to color some gray right here like that. And it looks kind of bluish tinged to me, so I'm going to take my blue and I'm going to go over the gray, like so, like that. I'm going to take my black because it looks like there's some black outlines right here, and I'm going to just outline it really quickly. Looks like there's some gray outline, so I'm going to press pretty hard because that looks like a pretty deep gray to me. Just like that. Then I'm going to go into a lighter gray like that. Then I'm going to take my black again. I'm going to go into the lines like that, just so. I'm going to go over this because right here looks like there's some black, so I'm going to go into that line right there. Ooh, perfect. Go right here because it looks like there's some black. Now, once I got that done, take my white, and I'm going to go over where all the white parts are, right over there. Perfect. So, and I'm going to make sure to kind of go over the gray a little bit because we want to blend that gray out. I'm also going to go right here, go over the blue and gray a little bit because we want to blend that out. I'm going to go right here because it looks so, and then I'm going to take my gray because right here it looks more gray, so I'm going to color in a little bit of gray right there. So, once we got that done, we have our sail, ladies and gentlemen. Just make sure that it's really nicely done and it's in the lines. I don't want to be seeing stuff outside the lines. It needs to be nicely done inside the lines. So we've gotten this part done. See, that wasn't too hard. And especially if you just follow and you keep looking back and forth, you'll be able to get it just as easily. So now what we're going to do is we're going to work on the landscape a little bit. So we're going to take, oh yeah, we also need yellow. We're going to take our yellow. And look, I can see some yellow right here. I can see some yellow poking out here, some yellow here, here. So I'm going to just be looking for those yellow. I'm going to paint some yellow on there, like that. You can see some yellow over here. I can see some yellow here. And the land ends, look, the land ends, if you are looking at the painting, you're doing a good job, the land ends like right there. So do not go over this. I know there's like no distinct line, but don't go over this. You look at the painting and you can just tell where the land is supposed to end, okay? So look, the land ends here and it ends here. So I want you to draw a line so to make sure you don't go over, draw a line with the green to make sure you don't go over this. So you keep the land, the green here, and you're able to draw the blue later on, next week. So we take our green. So our green, we're just going to do it like this. We're going to do a light layer over all the land, just like that. And it's okay if you get a little bit on the yellow, that's fine because it's just blending it out, just like that. Because there's some land here. There we go. So we got our layer of green down. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take some black, and I'm going to find where those darker spots are, and I'm going to just go over like this. And I'm going to make those parts lightly. We don't want to do this very darkly. Go over those parts like that. I'm going to go here. I kind of follow, see these little squiggles in it? I kind of follow that because it kind of shows me where the darkness is supposed to be and where it's not and things like that. Okay, I see a shadow right here and it's mostly black, and so I see a line right here. I'm going to color that all in black because that looks like it's all the shadows. Then I'm going to do a little bit of darkness right around here. I'm going to take my green again and I'm going to go over the black to just blend it and make it look more green. I'm going to take my yellow. I'm going to do some yellow detailing right around here because it needs it. Need some more yellow here. And then I'm going to take my white because if you can see there's still some white around here. And I'm going to try to draw on some white stuff. Draw it like this is highlighting it because the sun goes on the grass and highlights the grass. There we go. There's some white over here, like that. There's some definite white right here. If you get some white on the poles like that, it's okay. Just use your nail and just kind of go like that, and they'll come off pretty easily. There's some white right here. I see some right here. You see? Can you see? Can they see? Okay, I see some white right there, so I'm going to take some, do some white there, do some more white around here. Okay, that's good enough for that land. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our green, we're going to go over this big bush, like that, lightly in green. Okay, we got that done. We're going to get our black, because you can see there's definitely some darkness. And we're going to kind of follow the outline. So the tree like goes upwards like this, kind of in a spiky motion, kind of like that. And then there's some dark green spots over here. There's some dark green spots here, and right here. So we got that. Take our green. We're going to go back over those dark spots and blend them out with the green. take this again and we're going to go make a little bit more shadows like that. Because it's looking a little too light at the moment because this is pretty dark. Like that. Okay, get some over here. Ooh, that's looking nice. Get our green again and blend it out. There. Okay, that's pretty good. I'm going to do a little bit more black right here because it looks like there is more black here. There is more shadow right here. So we're going to do that. Take our green, go over it again, let's blend it out. Okay, that looks good. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take our light orange. We're going to lightly go over the top of this house because it looks kind of orangey color. We're going to do that. We're going to go over all of this with our orange because it looks orangey colored over here. Just like that. We're going to take our gray and we're going to color it a little bit here because this looks right here, like here, it looks darker. So we're going to take our gray color here and we're going to take our black and color right here because it looks black right there. So we're going to do that. And then we're going to take our brown and we're going to lightly go over, very lightly go over the orange with our brown color. Like that. There's a little bit of shadow right there, so I'm going to put some black. There's some shadow right there, so I put some black right there. And then I'm going to take a little gray to blend that black out. And then what we're going to do is I'm going to take my brown, and on this, I'm going to draw just brown on there. Just like that. Then I'm going to take my gray, and I'm going to do some gray because that looks darker right there. So I do some gray, make it darker. Take my white. I'm going to blend this out because that looks lighter than that. So blend that out. And then I'm going to take my black. I'm going to do a little bit of shadowing right there because there's some shadowing right there. Then I'm going to take my brown again and I'm going to blend out that black. There we have the side of the house. Here, if you can see, there looks like there's some green. So I'm going to take some green and I'm going to do a couple of strokes like that. Then I'm going to take my orange because it's quite orange. And I'm going to blend that green out. Just like that. I'm going to take my red, if you have some red, because right here it looks really red on the roof. I'll grab some, do maybe a couple of dots, and then take your brown and blend it out. Like that. There you go, just like that. There you go, you have your houses now. We're going to take some black, because this right here looks pretty dark, so take some black and lightly go over here, because it looks like a dark green. And then we're going to take our green and we're going to go over that black. Just like that. Go take some more black because it looks still a little too light. Go like that. Take our green again, go over it. And there we have it. We have our landscape. So I'm gonna turn this page over. And you're just going to copy from mine, but also you have the reference right here. You can pause this video and just keep looking at mine to see how I did it. And yeah, that's about it. This is how you get her done. So I want you to pause the video. I also want you to put your name and dates, please, on the back of your paper. Your paper is going to be blank like this. So put it on the back of the paper, please. Put your name and your date because then I know whose is whose. So I want you to do that. You use your crayons again. Here we have the colors one more time. Gray, red, white, black, green, brown, light orange, light blue, and yellow. So those are the colors. Pause the video so that you can look at my picture. And bye, kids.